I can't tell you how many times I've gone into the bank because I've had to send a wire to a client. I mean, it's completely antiquated. I've got to go in during their business hours. I've got to fill out a form. They tell me I'm sending too much. Then they go tell me it's not approved. Then they come back and tell me it is approved. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, it's sort of like sending a postcard to somebody now and not sending an email. You know, with Bitcoin, I can send funds to a client instantly at any time of the day, any amount, and they get it immediately. So I think, again, we're going to see a revolution in the way it's done. And it's really not about us, you know, the people in this room. It is, and this is getting a little bit away from gaming, but it's about the developing countries too. It's about the people who live in a cash-based society, who all they do is deal day to day with merchants in cash, and they have a cell phone. They have a cell phone that has internet access. There are 2 billion people in this world that don't have access to traditional banking, but they do have a cell phone. With that cell phone, they can download a simple app, and now they can become participants in a worldwide financial network, right? So it's about them. And not only that, now they have the ability to play on some of the operators' websites anywhere in the world.
Well, actually, just on that, and there's two things. First is that, you know, you both clarified and say this, you know, we're going off topic on from gaming, but how many people out there know about smart contracts, crypto contracts? Anybody? No, okay. That's Bitcoin 2.0. That has the potential to disrupt your business, because that is peer-to-peer decentralized gaming. And you touched upon it with the escrow idea, but have a look at it. People are putting together theoretical right now. A theoretical one right now is called Ethereum. Two that are out there that have some interest. One is called Counterparty and one is called Mastercoin. Will these succeed? I don't know. But what they are doing, and they're creating crypto contracts, which will have a big potential to affect the gaming industry as it moves forward. More on the sports side than anything else. And there are models out there, people are doing it already. It just needs some traction. So I'm going to stop and just ask if there's any questions at this point. Okay.
Yeah, more for the near term, I apologize. What about liquidity? So let's say I take a position in Bitcoin, I open an online gaming operation that takes Bitcoin. At some point, I'm going to have, in the near term, I'm going to have some kind of liquidity with traditional currencies. Given the finite amount of Bitcoin that's out there, what's the realistic potential for that situation?
Do you mean as an operator how much you can transact, or as an end user how much you can like deposit?
I guess as an operator. So let's say somebody makes a deposit $5 million worth of Bitcoin. How easy would it be for me to unload that into the marketplace, or am I going to be selling them at 500 chunks a piece?
Liquidity is still an issue. For a $5 million transaction, you wouldn't sell that in one chunk. You'd probably move the market a few percent. So you probably do sell that not in $500 chunks, but in, say, $50,000 chunks. Like, I don't have off the top of my head exactly what the liquidity figures are. Like Marvin probably would know better than I would because he runs an exchange. Yeah, like if a player were to make a $5 million deposit, you'd probably sell at 3 or 4% less than the top rate at that particular time, but you can do it the same day.
Yeah, to add to that, in the consulting that we've done with a variety of Bitcoin-only casinos, I mean, certainly we haven't seen a transaction of that size.
That was just a number, by the way.
Yeah. More so we see, and again, Bitcoin is divisible, down to 8 decimal points. We see typical transactions at 0.05 BTC. So, but we see a lot of those transactions. Transactions will get up in the 10, 20, 50 BTC, but again, more so it's around 0.05 to 0.1, I would say. So in terms of liquidity, certainly, as the team was saying, there are liquidity issues, but in a situation with the Bitcoin-only casinos, they can set up relationships with exchanges and then, exchange into local currency. And it works pretty well. If you have, your KYC and AML done, there's a lot of ways to guard against the liquidity.
It's also, it's also a treasury function. The largest transaction that we've the largest deposit that we've taken for an operator is $1.2 million, and we would not sell that on a spot anyway, even if we could, because it's important for us to internally manage our assets. So the way that we do it is we retain a ratio of digital currency assets versus cash assets, and we buy and sell throughout the day and throughout the week and throughout the year to maintain that ratio. So it depends on like the status of your particular order book at that particular moment in time. But yeah, if you want to take a $5 million deposit, you could do that.
Yes?
I want to bring it back to gaming and a very simple one. At the moment in Hong Kong, everyone plays Candy Crush Saga. And so there's a potential, I guess, in gaming, so you've got a whole heap of standard Xbox types of games, to potentially lead into that path that people can actually bet on people gaming, as in what they do with their Xbox or PlayStation. I'd like to understand the panel's thoughts on that. Possibly, is that possible to do, and do you see that as a potential something happening in 5 to 7 years?
Okay, I can just quickly comment, and then we can maybe go around. In Taiwan, a bet with a Bitcoin is still a bet, and gambling's illegal. So the answer to that is no, and it's simply because of how the law defines gambling. They don't actually define it. The law does not define it in relation to currency. They define it in the sense of an expectation of profit on an uncertain outcome. And so it's, you know, that, so for, I think it's gonna be a very jurisdiction by jurisdiction kind of question. But
Yeah, to me that's a product idea, not a currency idea. I think it's a really cool idea. There was a company in the States called Betterball, I don't know if they're still around, but they tried to basically create this interface whereby any game publisher could effectively turn their game into they could introduce like a gambling element. Hillary might be familiar with them from a social gaming side, I'm not sure. Really cool idea, and again, if you get buy-in from game publishers like EA Sports or whatever else, that's awesome. But that's nothing to do with Bitcoin or any different specific, like, as Marcus says, it's still like a gambling element to it. Maybe in the short term, because there's an unregulated kind of nature surrounding Bitcoin, you can do it, but it's not a long-term idea without proper regulation.
Yeah, I just want to add one comment, because Bitcoin is not just a solution for payment. Back to the gaming business, it's already created some